I worked at a small convenience store in the early 1990s. They had one of those fry delis that had chicken, corn dogs, burritos, etc. This particular night, I had run out of burritos and chicken. I also shut the thing down and cleaned it all out about an hour before closing. About 5 minutes before I was closing up, a guy walked in and asked for some burritos. I told him I was out of them, and that I was just about to close and the fryer was shut down. He walked around the store for a minute. I assumed he was looking for something else to buy. And then he came up to the counter, pulled out a knife, and told me if I didn't cook him some burritos, he was going to stab me. I freaked out, but told him I had none to cook. I showed him the freezer and told him I'd happily cook anything he wanted from it, but I was out of burritos. He looked in it for a minute, turned to me and said, "You really are out?" I replied, "Yeah." He then put the knife away and left the store. At a Missouri-based convenience store. Had a guy in our parking lot doing what looked to be Tai Chi at 1 a.m. He would do the motions, then kickflip off the side of the building and go back to doing the motions. We told him he needed to stop doing that. Goes to the pumps, takes the nozzle off, buzzes for inside pay, chooses a grade of fuel, and splashes it in his mouth. He spits it out, chooses another grade, and does it again. This is the point where we called the cops. After he decided he was done mouthwashing with fuel, he comes in and just starts loading up with bags of chips, candy bars, a single 12-ounce Bud Light from a 6-pack. Half of the stuff was opened. Cop got there, told the guy he had to pay, then put him in the back of his car. Word from the cop the next day was that he was an extremely disturbed individual and he was admitted to a mental ward. I got in around my normal 11 p.m. time and settled in for a slow night of training with my coworker, who was on his last day with the company. Things were quiet and going pretty smoothly until around 1 a.m. Steve and I were jamming to some classic rock, but turned it off when the crazy lady enters. A small, frail-looking lady in about 20 jackets comes in carrying a duffel bag. She set the bag next to a shelf, which sat behind the register. I couldn't see the bag, so at first I didn't even notice it was behind me. The crazy lady went straight to the self-service coffee and pulled out a coffee mug from underneath one of her jackets. She seemed out of it, talking to herself and muttering under her breath, but I'd be out of it too at 1 a.m., so I let the crazy lady just do her thing. Until her bag starts to bark. I'm confused as heck since I hadn't seen her place down the bag and certainly didn't think there would be a dog inside. My coworker lets the crazy lady know we don't allow animals inside the store, and she'll have to take him outside. Words are as close as I can remember to what was said. But I don't have a dog. Lady, we can hear it barking. It wants out of the duffel bag. I'll let it out, but it's not my dog. Just my bag. Well, regardless of who owns the dog, you brought it in, so you'll have to take it out. Fine. I'll just take my coffee and go since you don't want me here. Okay, so it'll be $1.50 for the coffee refill. Thanks for understanding. At this point, I can see Crazy Lady shaking with rage. Her eyes may as well have rolled back into her head. No, my coffee is always free! No, it's not. All refills of drip coffee are $1.50. But he said I could have it for free. Take it up with the big man, not me. I get mine for free. Who are you talking about? There has been just my coworker and I. What big man? I don't want to say. That man. Upstairs. He told me. Lady, this is a one-floor building. We don't have an upstairs. God! God told me in a dream that I could come here and always have free refills. Are you going to tell God no? At this point, my coworker had enough and told her just to go, but if she came back, we would call the police on her. I never saw her again. I'm a convenience store cashier, and besides the occasional robbery, nothing really happens here. We've had a handful of super dramatic, "Get on the ground!" robberies, but most are just regular shoplifters. Because nothing really happens here, I like to make small talk with the people in the store to pass the time. Sometimes people have great stories. Sometimes we end up knowing someone in common, and sometimes it's just nice to make a person smile. The other day, I was out from behind the register stocking shelves. I was the only person in the store because weekday afternoons are usually slow, and because basically everyone has quit. It's getting cold here, and the building still hasn't turned the heat on. So I had a hoodie featuring the logo of a local sports team over my uniform, a short-sleeved shirt, and name tag. So I guess I just looked like a guy browsing the aisles. But it wasn't a problem because when a customer came in, I'd say, "Let me know if you need anything," and that cleared it up. Maybe 2 came in during the entire start of my shift. Just as things were wrapping up and I'd had a long dread streak, a guy about my age came in, and he seemed to be in a great mood. He also had a big hoodie, and it was cold out, so I didn't think anything of it at all. I spoke to him from where I was, down with the shelves. "Let me know if you need anything." He came and stood by me, kind of giggling. Weird, but I've seen weirder. Whatever. Finally, I said, "Can I help you?" Hey. Hi. Then he started talking to me about the logo on my hoodie. We went back and forth for a bit. My side of the conversation was normal. His side was really overstated. In hindsight, it's because he was nervous, but I was kind of checked out and didn't really care at the time. I'd say something like, "He's got a good arm, but his head just isn't in it this season." And this guy would reply, "Oh, my God, the best arm. Once in a lifetime talent." But he's not there at all. Gone. Trash. Garbage. They should just cut him. I kept stocking the shelves, not thinking at all about the odd nature of what he was saying, and instead thinking in the back of my mind, is he gonna buy something or what? From there, we actually got to talking about how we got into the game. We had a really heartfelt conversation about going with our fathers and sitting in the cheap seats, and we did actually sort of bond a little. Finally, we ran out of sports commentary to make at one another, though, so there was a wave of silence for a few minutes. Then, he got uncomfortably close to me. "I like you a lot. You know that?" My first thought was that this was some kind of gay thing. There's no problem at all if that's what you're into. It's not my scene, though, so I took a healthy step back and told him thanks, but no thanks. He laughed kind of maniacally and explained to me, no, he meant he liked me, so he'd be willing to cut me in on what he was currently doing. I asked what that was. "Ain't nobody in here. I've got my truck outside. I'm gonna load it up with beer and stuff. You seem like a good dude, so I'm tipping you off in case you want anything. Ain't no one here. It's easy money, bro." I couldn't believe it. He was trying to rob the store, and he was telling me about it. I quickly realized that his overly excited, socially inappropriate behavior must have been due to drugs. Rather than confront someone on drugs, in my experience their moods can change from perky to violent really quickly. I just went with my gut and decided to play along. I knew I needed an excuse to get back behind the register. Good stuff. Forget the beer though, man. I'm going for the real easy money. And I hopped over behind the counter, where I promptly but discreetly pressed the button that locks the doors from the inside, followed shortly by a brand new panic button. It was the first time I'd ever used it, and I hoped there wouldn't be a time, but at least I wasn't genuinely panicking yet. At that point, the guy had loaded both shoulders up with six-packs and headed for the door to make the first of what I'm sure he anticipated would be several trips. He pushed against the door with his hip, and, of course, it didn't budge. And he pushed pretty hard, anticipating that it would swing easily, so I felt kind of bad seeing him wince. He nearly dropped the beer. He turned to me, more frustrated than scared at this point. "Bruh, the door's jammed. Can you give it a try?" I was nervous to step out from behind the register in case this guy had a weapon, so I tried to deflect. "Maybe you've got to pull it." He started freaking out and running around the store. He tried the back door, but it had locked as well. And he tried to climb up and reach the one tiny window we've got. But not only was it too high, but it doesn't really fit a person. I kept playing dumb. Eventually, the cops came. It took a while, and the guy had resorted to hiding in the stockroom by the time they made it over. Though, not before first wrecking a couple of aisles in his frenzy. But at least I was able to lock him in the stockroom once he went inside. They came in to arrest the guy, and he started trying to blame the whole thing on me. He said I'd set him up and that I'd make him do it. It genuinely confused the police for a bit. So, I don't work as a robber. I do work at the gas station. Though, how much longer will depend on how many more robberies I live down. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and have a marvelous day. Stay humble. Stay grateful.